What's up, guys? Welcome to the Red and Gold Standard podcast. We are previewing the Atlanta Falcons and the San Francisco 49ers. Thank you, as always, for joining us. Unfortunately, Zach is having probably the worst week of car trouble you could ever experience, so he will be unable to join us tonight. But I'm joined by our good friend of the show, Mike Andrews from Nothing But Niners. Mike, how you doing tonight, bud?
I am great, man. I feel good. I'm trying to get back into the regular flow of things, between, a late Monday night game for the Niners a couple weeks ago and then traveling back and everything. My calendar has been all off kilter. So it feels good to get back in the groove of things. I'm ready, man.
Absolutely. And, I like this by Nick Danger. Said it perfectly. Hit the like button, comment, subscribe. We love having you here. If you are on Twitter, we can't see your comments. So go over to YouTube, comment there, and we'll make sure to make you part of the show. We love having you guys here. So let's jump right into it, man. The 49ers travel to the East Coast for the second week. I'm not sure. I don't think did they stay? Okay.
Yeah, they did. The Niners are in, I believe it's West Virginia right now or something like that. They have a place.
They do that, right?
And so they were able to work that out. And they keep talking about like the bonding experience. You're stuck in the hotel room and the guys go out for dinner. So no family or anything like that. No happy distractions. That's what I like to call them, a family and things like that. They just focus on playing together, bonding together. And for the most part, this has worked out in the favor of Kyle Shanahan when they have the back-to-back East Coast trips. So hopefully the luck continues.
Absolutely. This is one of those two that we were talking about that I felt was a very winnable game. I don't know if I made any sense on the last show. Honestly, it was a great day for me. The Padres beat the Mets and the 49ers beat the Panthers. And, I got a little loose, but, I'm back this week, tightening it up. Let's hope the 49ers keep it tight too, because they need this one coming into a difficult stretch coming up. So after this game, it's Kansas City, and that's a tall task. It's especially for a 49ers team that's not really scoring the way that they should. You'd like to see more productivity out of them. And this is a 49ers team that, we're going to talk about it, but been bit by the injury bug yet again. I mean, just over and over, just bodies, there's an old rock song from the 2000s called Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. And that's what seems like it's happening for the 49ers right now. Real quick, I want to Jose Torres super chat. What y'all doing? Little baby just dropped. Little too light complected for that, I think, but I don't understand.
No, Lil Baby, listen, man, Lil Baby's been having a rough couple of months, so he's got to. Hopefully, this album is good. I have the Apple Music app on my phone and everything that you pay monthly for, so I'm gonna check it out tomorrow. Sorry, man, you got to choose though. And what I'm happy is that he's here in the comments. So shout out to him. Not only is he here in the comments, he's given the super chat. So that's devotion right there. We appreciate that, man. Thank you very much.
Love it. So getting back to the injury, Aspra, all starting D-line didn't practice. Mike, I mean, we got Eric Armstead with that foot injury and like a new injury, I guess, to the ankle. We got Nick Bosa, who had the groin injury. We got Javon Kinlaw with the knee. Emmanuel Mosley, obviously, we lose him tragically for the rest of the season due to that torn ACL. Jimmy Ward breaks his hand. Trent Williams is still out. This is just walking wounded for the 49ers. Even some of the other players, Tarvarius Moore, Samson Ebukam, Aaron Banks, were, limited participants. What is going on, and what can the 49ers do to overcome this injury problem that they just seem to keep running into?
I don't know how much of it is injury versus precaution. Nick Bosa obviously is dealing with. I believe they said it was a groin thing, but when it's all said and done, Robbie Gold returned. I know you were talking about the defensive line thing like that, but Robbie Gold, he was back at practice today. Ebukam actually was back at practice today. He didn't practice yesterday, though. I thought that was interesting. They might just be resting up some of these guys who have a couple of things that are a little tight. You know what I'm saying? So better safe than sorry, especially with guys who have been in the system for more than 1 year. They kind of know the assignments. It's all about what plays they're going to choose to run and execute when they're out there. And I'm all on the side of precaution. You know, I don't need Nick Bosa to go out there and practice week after week. I'm sorry, I don't. This guy's been here for 3 years now. Like, he can sit back and chill. And I absolutely like that with him. But I do believe, even though they didn't practice, I do believe Kinlaw has a shot at playing on Sunday. So that is something that is very, very good for the Niners. I will be interested to see who the guy starting opposite side of cornerback Javarius Ward will be, though. That's one thing to keep our eye on. Jason Verrett is back at practice. So we'll see what happens. Is it his job? Do they go with Moore? Not Moore. Do they go with Ambry Thomas or something? So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, here's the question. Against a Atlanta team that you should be able to handle even without Nick Bosa, do you play it cautiously and maybe hold him for the week to get him ready for the more dangerous opponent? Or do you just feel like if he says he's good, he's good? The thing with groins is they tend to linger, and that's something that you got to. And by the way, let it be noted that his brother just had surgery on a groin injury. Nick has had surgery on the core muscle injury, which is essentially like right next to the groin. So is this something that you would hold him out for, or do you think if he says he's good to go, you let him go?
I might be wrong here. And I posted this as a poll in my last show. All right. I just did a whole solo show on Nothing But Niners. And I posted one poll. Which game is more important of the next two for the morale of the locker room? Not for the fan base, but for the locker room. This upcoming game or the KC game, right? And my personal vote was this coming game. And I'm going to tell you why. If you lose to this Falcons team, with or without Nick Bosa, I don't care who plays. If you lose this game, I think morale shoots down and you don't even expect to win the KC game. So if you can win this game with a couple of backups in there, I think your confidence goes up through the roof, you know, because we got reinforcements coming back. Then you know for sure Armstead might be back. You know, Jimmy Ward will be back by then. You know, Kinlaw will be. All of a sudden, you're like, yo, we did this without these guys. Maybe we can do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's really what it's going to come down to. And I think that also you got the NFC versus the AFC game, right? If you're going to lose one of these games, you don't want to lose the NFC one. You already lost the game to the Bears that you shouldn't have lost. You got to kind of make up some grounds. The gimmies in the NFC, you got to take them. You have to take advantage of them. So that's my personal opinion. Matt, I do want to get your thought on that. Which one do you think for morale in the locker room? I understand that the mindset of the fans, if we can beat KC, we can beat anybody. The Super Bowl is ours this year, right? I understand that mindset of the fan base. But in the locker room, which one do you think carries more weight?
I mean, I think you're onto something in and of the fact that if you do lose to this Atlanta team, it does have a big negative hit. But if the team does beat Kansas City, it's a bigger positive hit. So what are you trying to avoid, right? Are you trying right now? The 49ers have momentum. They've won a couple games in a row. Or they're, getting on track. That, they're poised to go to 4-2 or whatever. And they can go in, and have a nice shot and good feeling going into Kansas City. I do agree that definitely plays a part of that. You want to mop up the teams that you should mop up on. And again, it's one of those where if you lose to KC, you can look at it and be like, well, it's Kansas City. They're one of the best teams in the league. It's not necessarily a referendum on the team or whatever. I think it's important to, look at more than just that, though. I mean, this is an early 10 o'clock game. 49ers have to deal with that. It's on the road. The Kansas City game is going to be at home. It's going to be, I believe, a primetime game. I think it's Sunday Night Football next week. It's a tale of two things. I think you need to go out and if Nick says he can go, put all hands on deck. You need everybody that you can. I think that, they're going to very much play it by ear. And at the, you can start him, and that at the moment of any tightness or whatever, you can pull him out, right? Like you say, okay, you're done. We got what you did what you did. We're going to keep working on treatment. No harm, no foul. But I think that if he says he's good to go and you feel comfortable with it, he definitely should go. And like you said, he's been here for 3 years. He doesn't need to be in practice all the time.
And that's interesting you said that. You put him out there, and then if there's some tightness or whatever, you pull him. That's what they did last week. Kyle actually went to the podium and said that Nick was tight during pregame workouts and warmups and all that. So he was already on a pitch count. They were already monitoring him. Not even just it wasn't series after series. It was play after play. He had to look to the sideline and give a quick thumbs up, like, I'm good. And they were asking him to do it discreetly. You know what I mean? So when he finally went out, it was like, all right, that's enough. Like, if it's tightening up on you, you're feeling worse than when you were, a drive ago or whatever, we're going to pull him out. So I absolutely agree with you. As far as the 10 o'clock thing for the people over there on the West Coast, I think that if you're not adjusted after 10 days, by the time this game gets here, they would have been here for 13 days. You're not going to adjust. So I think, not trying to be funny or rude, I think that excuse for the players goes out the window now. If there was a game that the 10 o'clock thing was going to mess you up, it was last week. You're going to have plenty of time to adjust.
Remember, they played at 1 o'clock last week. They were a late game, even in Carolina. So
yeah. So
then, do we consider them technically on a short week then?
Right. Well, I mean, so here's the thing, right? When the schedule came out, I said that the NFL really did us a solid with that. The times come out with the schedule, and I saw that right away. I was like, I can't believe that it's a 4 o'clock game in Carolina, And even when I booked my tickets in my room and all that shit, I mean, that stuff. Sorry, I didn't even realize that it was that late. You know what I'm saying? I was like, oh my God. Like, I'm telling my wife, yeah, I should probably be home around 8. I mean, not 8, between 10 and 12 o'clock. You know what I mean? Like 1, 2, the latest, if there's traffic and all that stuff. Then I realized, like, holy crap, this game don't start until 4. I'm thinking I'm getting out of there at 4 and getting on the road for the 9.5-hour drive, right? Like, it was a surprise to me at the last minute, but I have no problem with what they're doing right now. Short week, clockwise, yeah, because you're not getting the full 1-to-1. You know what I mean? But if your short week is 3 hours short, I'll take that any day of the week.
I was just being a smartass. I wanted to bring this up by Hung Fat. I think it's a good question. Was listening to Ham Pod. They asked if you could choose Jimmy to have high touchdowns or low interceptions, which do you pick and why? I think we're both going to have similar answers, but what's your take, Mike?
I mean, I'll take high touchdowns. I mean, I don't maybe I don't understand the question, because he hasn't
I say this like in a vacuum. If you could choose one for Jimmy, for him to have more touchdown passes or less interceptions, what would you choose? Here's maybe I can help you out, right? Well, I mean, I can go if you'd like, because I think I'm kind of guessing what they're going to ask. I'm going to go with low interceptions, because you can still get rushing touchdowns. You can hand the ball off. It means you're in the zone. I don't need Jimmy to have huge passing touchdown numbers. What I need is for Jimmy not to shoot us in the foot on offense and let other playmakers do the thing, right? There's enough there that if Jimmy's not turning the ball over, and those turnovers really matter. We've seen it before, right? What is the Niners record when they win the turnover battle versus what's the Niners record when they lose the turnover battle? And Kyle's talked about this, and we've all talked about this. I think that limiting Jimmy's mistakes actually helps the team, because you don't need him to go out and Mr. Do-It-All, right? It worked for Alex Smith in Kansas City. Did he light up the scoreboard every week? No, but he was a low turnover guy that got the ball where it needed to go and let your playmakers do the rest. So I think that's a recipe, Let's not forget that he was going toe-to-toe with Andrew Luck in that AFC divisional game before the defense just decided to give up 45 points. So, I mean, it can be done. I think that it's low interceptions. Hopefully that kind of like brings I think that's like the perspective they're going for. It's like, if you just take Jimmy with no external influences, what would you rather have?
But I think I wish I had more details, and I'm not trying to like pander or anything like that, right? But what do they call high interceptions, right? 27 interceptions to me is not high. That's less than 2 a game. If you just throw touchdowns. I didn't mean interceptions. If you throw 27 touchdowns in a season, I don't think that's a lot for 16 games. They're adding a game. Now, if you tell me Jimmy's going to throw 2 touchdowns a game, and he'll throw 17 interceptions, I'll take that. I will take that. With the way our defense is playing this year, that's a winning. If he finishes the season with a 2-to-1 ratio, the Niners are in a phenomenal place, because that doesn't include the rushing touchdowns that you already mentioned. So I'll take that all day. Now, if you're telling me that high touchdowns is only 24, 25 with just 6 interceptions on the season, I don't want that. I need more points. I need the wide receivers to be looked at as a real threat, because if they're not looked at as a real threat, then they stack the box. Now the run game starts to suffer a little bit. I think we need to see the passing going on a little bit more.
I think, okay, so let's look at it this way. Let's just take Jimmy's career averages per season for touchdowns, career average per season for interceptions. Does that change your answer at all? Would you rather him have less turnovers than he does or more touchdowns? And we're just talking about a nominal amount. Let's just say five more touchdowns or 5 less interceptions or whatever, or 3. Well, I don't want to wait because that's kind of weighted, but like, let's say 8 more touchdowns, 4 less interceptions, since you're working off the 2-to-1.
I'm still going to take the touchdowns because of this defense. I know that sounds crazy, right? But we had a turnover 3 games ago. I think it was 3 games ago in our own territory, and we held that team to the point where they had to punt the ball. A couple of sacks, you know what I mean? And they ended up punting, and they were already where they wanted to be to score. You know what I mean? Like, this defense is playing that good this year. And so I'm going to do it based off of this year. Give me the points. We need the points, man. We need the points. This offense, not for nothing, has been the weakest of the 3 phases. If I got an option to flip that, give me the points. I'm sorry.
I see where you're coming from. I think that they kind of go, I think it's kind of a weird question, only in the fact that they both play a part and they both affect the defense, right? Offense out there scoring touchdowns. Obviously, the defense gets more rest, whatever. If Jimmy's throwing less interceptions, that means the defense is put into less potentially harmful situations, backed up in their own territory, or playing more snaps because the offense was only on the field for 2 plays. I think you have to have both in phases. Ideally, Jimmy would throw a little more touchdowns and a little less interceptions either way. But I get where it's coming from. I just think that turnovers are a killer. And yeah, there could be a turnover where, like, yeah, we force them into a punt, but then there's also going to be that pick 6, or there's also going to be that, one that's later in a game, right, where the defense has been out there. It's a team maybe that chews clock or runs the ball well and just keeps them on the field, particularly when we're in a situation like we are now, where the defensive line, the secondary, even to a certain extent, the linebacking core is a little beat up. And now you're asking them to take the brunt of that too. So I think it goes both ways. I think that just for me, just because I'm more of the, hey, you could always hand the ball off, right, and let those guys do their thing. I don't know. I think it could be
through 4 games. Through 4 games, right? Jimmy Garoppolo is 5-1 ratio right now. So he's on pace for 20 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions. I'll take that ratio. I know I said give me something in the 30s, right? But I'll take 20-4. That is manageable, clock consuming ball control right there. And Jimmy's going to have interceptable passes every game. He had one against the Panthers, hit the guy right in the hands. You know what I'm saying? But he for whatever reason didn't catch it. As a matter of fact, he had 2. There was one that hit the linebacker right in the hands. He just dropped it. There was another one where Debo ended up missing the ball and it went into the hands of the defender, but Debo knocked it out. So he had 2 passes that should have been intercepted, but it didn't work out. And you're going to get those lucky bounces every once in a while, So everyone said the Niners have the worst luck and all that stuff. That's not necessarily true. It works both ways. It just stands out more when we miss out on those opportunities. So I'll take
sure.
what Jimmy, this 5-1 ratio is incredible right now. I'll take that.
Yeah. And it's, again, it's a little bit of both, right? I think Jimmy is doing a much better job. I still think that the offense struggles to sustain drives, and I don't think that's all on Jimmy. I think some of that, well, I don't know, because like I say before, Jimmy's leaving a lot of fucking food on that table. I mean, he's leaving a Thanksgiving feast.
You look at the run game, and even the games that we lost, we were averaging over 4 yards a carry. That tells you that
and how good would that be if Jimmy could hit some of these throws? It would get better.
That's what I was gonna. Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting to. Good point, right? Like it's if we're averaging over 4 yards a carry, and that's with everybody included, including Jimmy's rushes, right, which are 1 or 2 yards or a loss, right? Even with those factored in there, we're averaging over 4 yards a carry on the season. If we can just maintain that and keep the interceptions down, it gives us a way better chance of winning these games. It does. There's no wrong answer, though. There is no wrong answer either way.
No. I like this question, too, from Anthony Colbreth. Hey, Mike and Matt, what would be a surprising trade the Niners could do at the deadline?
Oh, boy, this is rough. So I had a similar question where they were like, what position would you trade for? And I went through position group by position group. Matt, I can't think of a position that we need to trade to acquire right now. I can't. And the one that stood out the most was probably Jake Rendell, the center. But I feel like they're doing something like they did with Aaron Banks. You know, we had Donovan West, we had Poe, and it's like, let's see what these guys can do year 2, right? Stash these guys or whatever it is that you need to do, put them on the practice squad and see what they can do year 2. And maybe you end up with, I've been saying it for a while, the Peyton Manning and Jeff Saturday relationship. Jeff Saturday was undrafted to the Ravens, and then he got released. The Colts pick him up, and all of a sudden he has a Pro Bowl career as an undrafted center, right, when he gets over there with Peyton Manning. I would love to see something like that happen here with the 49ers, Trey Lance, and whatever center they choose to do. I'm not trading for a veteran center, though, because it's temporary. I want Trey Lance to be able to grow with someone, have a sincere rapport with someone, not having to adjust every 2 or 3 years like the Niners have been doing at the center position. So I can't think of anybody I would trade for right now.
So I'm going to say this, and this is just, me. This is Madden, right? I'm just playing Madden right now. All things in a vacuum, we talk about, again, Jimmy Garoppolo is struggling. If you want to try to get Jimmy Garoppolo a little bit of struggles, there's one thing that this team does not have, and it's a dedicated third down running back. And you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Carolina's about to just drop the whole thing off. Just trade for Christian McCaffrey. I know he's often injured. And again, this is just Madden, right? We just play Madden. I don't actually want to do it. I think we're going to stand pat. But the easy answer is to just be like, nah, this team is good. You gave that answer. I'm going to give a different answer. I'm going to say Christian McCaffrey, okay? He's often injured. The 49ers are often injured. Maybe it's a double negative equals a positive situation. But coming out of the backfield, we have next to nothing from the running backs. He could be a playmaker. I'm looking at the other side of the ball on that too. JC Horn, the cornerback. That could be a young guy that, again, we have the luxury of having Jason Verrett come off of IR, but maybe for the season, maybe for 2 games, who knows, right? So I don't know. I'm just spitballing just because I want to give some answers. Ace put in the chat, Kareem Hunt could be an option.
Yeah. Eric Crocker had a good point. He was like, Mike, Jimmy's injured again. Jimmy Ward, he came in, he's injured. He played 1 series, but he broke his hand on the opening kickoff, right? He was like, if we have another injury at the safety position, we could really, really be in trouble. Maybe that's the position that you want to trade for to acquire someone. But even my logic was Jimmy Ward is likely going to be able to play next week with a club on his hand. Okay, so
which ain't no different because he can't catch no interceptions anyways. He's got
exactly. So we're not right. We're looking for coverage, not picks. Right. We don't want him to get his hands on balls. So I'm looking at it as, even if we trade for someone, they're not going to replace the Gibson or Hufanga, and Jimmy Ward should be back. I just think it's short-sighted to try to pull off a trade right now for someone that you're not going to need anytime soon.
Yeah, and and if it's not for a critical position of need, it's not like the 49ers are huge deadline movers anyways. Jimmy Garoppolo is the real big one that we know, right? But they have a chance to go 4-2 this week. They're in a good spot. A lot of these guys' injuries, Emmanuel Mosley notwithstanding, are a little bit of a lesser severity. So there's going to be guys that they're going to be able to come back. So I don't think, and let's not forget the 49ers, gave up a lot to get Trey Lance. So they're still working with less draft picks than normal. So I just think that it probably behoove them to, hold on. My only reservation to that is they haven't done really well from rounds 2 to 4. So, if you can get something for cheap and reasonable, a disgruntled guy, again, catching the Panthers on a rebuild where they're just trying to build draft capital for whoever the next coach is going to be, and you can kind of work, like finesse somebody a little bit, then maybe look into some of those positions where you have more injuries than others, maybe guys that have a team-friendly contract that you can have for 2 or 3 years. and work it through that, because this team's also going to have a lot of turnover next year too. I don't expect Jimmy Ward to be back next year. I don't expect Jimmy Garoppolo to be back next year. Maybe Jeff Wilson's not back next year, right? How many other guys? We can't keep this 10 deep, 11 deep defensive line forever. It's just not going to happen. So you have to look at it from that perspective. As you listen, Debo got paid this year. What's it called? Bosa's next in line along with Brandon Ayuk. They're going to get paid. But Mike, I want to bring this up to you.
Based off of Jed York's tweet, I don't know if you saw it or not, they're probably going to try to extend Emmanuel Mosley also. He's coming off of an ACL. The market's going to be pretty low for him. Yeah, so I could see that even happening as well,
Now, I have an interesting twist on this, Mike, and I think you'll appreciate this. Through the first however many games of the season, I am starting to become of the opinion that George Kittle is on the decline. I think he's on the backside of his career. He doesn't separate like he used to. Mike, maybe the trade deadline move is to get rid of George Kittle a year early rather than a year late.
Between me and you and nobody else. No one else is hearing this. No one else is seeing this, right? Just secret between us. There was a reason I said who the 49ers can trade for, because Kittle will be my top priority to move right now. Get rid of that contract. He's a shell of himself. I said it when he got the contract that he's never going to play a full season. It's his style of play and things like that. And the Niners are too dependent on him as a blocker for you to feel like that contract is justified. The contract itself is what the issue is, not George Kittle, not his play. He's the best tight end in the NFL if used properly. Now, this past week might change my opinion on that, right? This past week, Kyle made a concerted effort to force him and Debo the ball. He made a concerted effort to even get Ayuk. He got his big three on offense, his big three pass catchers. He was calling plays for those guys all game long. And what that ended up doing was opening up things for guys like Danny Gray to take that one shot to him down, as soon as we came out in the third quarter. So I'll take that if that's what you're going to do. But then you have to consistently feed him the ball. If that's not going to be a constant part of your offense, part of the game plan, then you need to move on from him. You do need to move on from him. This is football. This is business. This is not a personal, emotional feeling or anything like that. It's just a business decision that you got to make at this time. He's up there in age already. The money is high, and you're not getting the production for him, and he can't stay healthy.
Well, and that's a huge part of it, and that's what I'm looking at from the production. Again, you said it right. If he's being used correctly, and I just don't think that he is. You look at, you were on it from day one. Excuse me. His contract, is one that he was never probably going to live up to. That's the reason why it is the way that it is. But this is like, he's a big money guy. Maybe not this year, but next year, he's going to be on the books for what his base salary jumps from 1 million this year to 11.65 next year with a $5.8 million prorated bonus. His cap number is going to be 18 million. He'll have 21 million in dead cap if you cut him pre-June 1st. Now, if you trade him after June 1st, that dead cap hit number is only 5.8. So and by the way, that 5.8 applies to this year as well. So you can get out from under that albatross contract. And I know Melissa's in the chat. She's super mad, but I know you're mad, Melissa. I can see it.
But you said this was Madden. You said this was Madden, right?
This is Madden. This is Madden. We're playing pure Madden, and it's better to get out a year early than a year too late.
And to Matt's point with this being Madden, right? And you guys can say what you want to say. We're talking about Kittle right now, but let's just flip it because we're playing this in Madden style. CMC has an untradeable contract. The dead money that they would have to pay him for trading him is more than what he would make in the next 2 years combined. So we're just doing this for Madden's sake and for conversation's sake. Don't take what we're saying serious, guys. Like
this is just no.
Have you seen Christian McCaffrey's contract? Have you seen what the dead money is If they were to move on from the
it's
kid,
preposterous. It's
it's
preposterous. It's something
insane
like
that a running back is on the books
it's
for
like
that kind of
30 or
money.
40 million or something stupid. It's
Yeah,
quarterback money.
yeah, it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. So this is just Madden. This is moving players and acquiring picks, and money not an object. That's what the Madden
But
reference.
I will say this. The 49ers, regardless of whether you think Kittle is on the decline, I personally think he is, just because he's had a litany of lower body injuries and he plays a certain way, right? The 49ers are not using him right. And the cementer for that to me was watching what Travis Kelce did for the Kansas City Chiefs. Travis Kelce don't block for dick. That dude is not a good blocker. And they don't use him as such because he's not.
But I can't even say watching what the Chiefs did with him. I know he had the 4 touchdowns, but correct me if I'm wrong. He only had like 4 or 5 catches for less than 50 yards in those 4 touchdowns. So he's specifically their red zone target because he's the bigger body for Patrick Mahomes to aim for. He didn't put up stats in that game. And I know he put up
for
4
sure.
touchdowns. If you guys own him in fantasy, you're happy with the outcome, right? But if you're looking at what he did throughout the duration of that game, even Kelce wasn't used right, and him and Kittle are up there in the same age range. So
no, for sure. But I'd say on the whole, Kelce is used a lot more effectively than what George Kittle is used as. So
yeah,
Melissa, you're so mad right now. This is just speculation. It's not what we're saying. I don't understand the anger. You gotta bring it down.
And you can't trade juice, Melissa. There's 7 teams in the NFL that use a fullback. They're not going to trade for the most expensive one and the oldest one. Like he's like if you want to talk reality or you want to talk Madden, like he's not.
And that's why I prefaced it. We're just spitballing because the real answer is we wouldn't trade for anybody. We think the team is good as is. We're answering a question because it's more fun, right? I don't understand. I don't get it. Ian Sharp says, think Kittle's playing injured. I mean, I think water's wet. So we're at that point now where he's always injured.
Yeah, we got to get used to it. We got to get used to it. I will say this, though. Kittle had a play that was phenomenal that was called back on a flag. Short pass, and he carried the team, I'm talking about the Panthers, down to like 3-yard line.
Yep.
And then they had to come back. That's the Kittle that you.
He also had that phenomenal catch on the sideline too. That was really good.
But my point with all this is that even though it came back on a flag, that style of play right there is who Kittle is to his core. I'm not stopping until the whistle blows 3 times, and you guys are gonna have to determine where I am.
Well,
that is not.
And Kyle said that about him too, right? He's 110% guy. I got to protect him from himself because he's fucking crazy, and he's just gonna be that way. But for Kittle and his contract, I'd want a little more than 11 catches for 99 yards. I know he's only been in 3 games, but that roughly is 3 to 4 catches a game for 33 yards a game. That's not enough. So I need more out of him. And that's just the crux of the issue. You know what I mean? It's just Madden we're talking about.
Absolutely. 100%.
All right, you want to get into this matchup, Mike? The Falcons are 2-3. They haven't looked super impressive, in my opinion. Their wins have been all right. A lot of them came with Cordero Patterson running the ball. Now, even without him, they're still a good running team. But I feel like Marcus Mariota's not it, especially against this defense. Dinged up or not, I think they're going to have a hard time scoring. And their defense isn't that great. I mean, again, is there any aspect of this that isn't a winnable? Which phase are the Atlanta Falcons better than the 49ers?
Special teams, for sure. Their special teams is definitely better than the 49ers. I spoke about it on the last show here. I can tell you what they average on kick return and punt returns, and this is the last 2 games. The Niners tackling on the returns teams have been terrible. So that's where they're really going to make their difference here, right? So check this out. They're averaging 23 yards a return for regular kickoffs. And then in punts, they're averaging returns are – damn, where'd it go? Where's punt return? Oh, here it is over here, 15.7. That's a very high number for punt returns. And especially when the long is only 28 yards. That's a real 15.7 yards a return. The Niners aren't getting close to that in either one of those categories. So when it comes to flipping field position, that's where they get you. And if you look at their games, all 5 of them, the wins or the losses, be damned. Like none of that makes a difference. They have all been one-score games. They lose to the Saints in week 1, 27-26. They lose to the Rams 31-27. All right. They beat Seattle 27-23. They beat Cleveland 23-20, and then they lose to Tampa Bay 21-15. That's the biggest margin that they lost by, and that was only 6 points, 1 touchdown, and that game is different. So we're talking about the difference of 2 or 3 plays a game, and this team is 5-0. You know what I mean? They play tough, they play hard all game long. This team has no quit in them, and Marcus Mariota is not doing a good job. If they had a quarterback that was willing to throw the ball down the field a little bit more, this team could be 5-0. So let's not act like we're just going to breeze over these guys. They fight hard all game long. They play well for each other. They don't put up a ton of points. Let's be clear with what we're saying here, but they keep games close no matter who their opponent is. Now, hear me out. Tampa, they're a shell of themselves. Cleveland is Cleveland. All right. Seattle, you don't know what you're going to get week in and week out, but the last 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, Seattle has been the highest scoring team in the NFL. All right. That falls in with them, including that Atlanta game, 27 points, and that's the least amount they've scored in the last 3 weeks for Seattle. Then they played the Rams. Now, if there's anywhere you get hope from this whole schedule, they gave up 31 points to the Rams, and the Rams have not been good on offense. If that's an issue, then you have to say to yourself, if you let the Rams put that up and Kyle out-Ramsed the Rams, he should be able to do the same thing against this team and put up 30-plus points as well. If there's a glimmer of hope, just looking at the box score, just looking at the total numbers there, that's where you feel like, okay, we got something here. That's where you want to go out there and pull it off, especially considering the Niners defense is giving you 7 points a game. That's what you got to look at. So, and I'm saying 7 points when in reality it's more than that. We had a turnover and we were already in field goal range last game as well. You know what I'm saying? So they technically gave us 10 points last game. So this defense is really doing their thing. We got to be a little bit cautious here, but we should be able to put up 30-plus points against this team if the defense plays the way they've been playing and Kyle takes advantage of the defense we're playing against.
Yeah, you would think so, right? But here's the thing. Are we going to get clean games like we got for Jimmy Garoppolo the past 2 weeks relatively, right? I don't think it's going to go 3 in a row. He's never gone 3 in a row without throwing a pick. And again, like I said, the turnovers matter. And when you play a team that you should go in and be better than in offense and defensive phases of the game, special teams, I'll give it to them, right? You allow them to hang around. And like you said, they don't go away. You know, if you leave teams in the game, which the 49ers have been doing the last few weeks, I mean, you could get shocked, and they have to be very, very careful that they don't let this team. This is one of those teams that you want it to be well in hand by the time halftime rolls around. Matt, I'm still mad. Why are you mad at me? We're just playing theoreticals. You could be mad at me if you want to. That don't bother me. I think it's kind of silly to get mad at just we're talking. It's not real.
Yeah, and that's the thing, guys. Like, you know, Matt.
Feel how you feel. We all love our players, right? But like at the end of the day, we're just talking. We're spitballing.
But it's not just Melissa, right? We're on these platforms and we do these things, and we have to understand. We're going to say things that everybody in the chat is not going to agree with.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna upset some people with our takes, and we have to, as content creators, have to learn to roll with those kind of things. You know what I'm saying? She did ask a question though in that same message. It's something along the lines of who can you see getting a pick six? And with Mosley being out, he had the most recent pick six. Mm-hmm. Hufanga had the one before that, and if it was any quarterback other than who was chasing him, they probably catch him because Hufanga looked gassed and he was running wide open with no one near him. I mean, yeah. I thought he was going to get tackled. He even went to the podium and said he thought he was going to get tackled. If there was someone on this defense that you thought could get a pick six in this game,
yeah,
who do you think it would be?
I mean, let's spread it around. I mean, there's two guys that come to mind, right? It'll be Lenore, or it'll be Lenore if he plays. I'll just say the slot corner position. So Lenore or Womack, whoever plays. But really, the guy that I'm eyeing is Tashawn Gibson. I think he could take one back. He's shown much more nose for the ball than Jimmy Ward has ever shown. I know that Jimmy Ward is a great player and all, but Tashawn Gibson's career interceptions, I think he's at like 28 or 29. Like, the dude goes after the ball. So I could see him getting a tip or getting whatever. I think that he plays it well. I think he has a pick this year for us. I'd have to go back and check on that, but
he does.
yeah,
Hufunga tipped it up in the air. He came up and he caught it. He does. Yeah. He has one for us already.
So he has a nose for the ball. I think that could very well be. And then don't sleep on Fred Warner. He's getting close.
That was my vote right there.
Take it.
The Falcons do a lot of short pass. They do a lot of dink and dunk. Drake Jackson, the rookie, is their leading target and receptions. They seem to have moved on from Kyle Pitts, which I can't for the life of me figure out.
Sorry, don't mean to correct you. Drake London. Drake Jackson's our guy.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Look at me. I got Niners on the brain, but good catch. Drake London is their leading, not only in targets but in receptions as well. But if you look at his total like yards per reception, it's low. It's not even 15. It's low for someone to be. Yeah,
he has a long of 31.
Right. So he's not out there baking anybody. They're not throwing the ball downfield to him or anything like that. Everything is short over the middle. And with the way our defense plays, we have to see who's filling in for Mosley again. But they blanket guys. There's going to be some balls that get popped up in the air. I think Fred Warner, who is leading the team, if I'm not mistaken, in assisted tackles, which speaks to something. If he's not the primary guy, he is the next guy there. And so if balls are going up in the air, Fred Warner is likely to be the guy closest to it. I think that's your pick six candidate for this week, Melissa.
I like that. I think that Fred Warner has quietly been under the radar just because of how much Talanoa Hufanga has broken out. And it's very easy to forget that Fred Warner is, as a linebacker, is one of the best in the NFL. So, yeah, if they're not careful, and, Mariota is very similar to Jimmy. He's not going to see some of those linebackers lurking, and that'll make it easy pickings. And honestly, I think that just for the sake of getting this game in hand early, I would love to see Fred Warner just get that pick six in the first quarter, just take it back, and then, just let the momentum go. So
the one thing I'll give Mariota is he's 4 for 4 right now. His touchdown to interception ratio is 1-to-1. So that to me bodes well. Not only that, he's been sacked 12 times to Jimmy's only 7, if I'm not mistaken. I think, Jimmy's got 7 sacks on the season. Jimmy's got a 5-to-1 ratio. Mariota's got a 1-to-1 ratio for touchdown interceptions. That bodes well for the 49ers defense. And keep in mind, of all the defenses that they've played so far this year, the best defense is probably the Saints. They've played, and you correct me if I'm wrong, if you think I'm off here, they played the Saints, the Rams, Seattle, Cleveland, and Tampa Bay. Which one do you think is the closest to dominance like the 49ers is? And but none of them are as dominant as the 49ers, but which one do you think is the closest?
I'd have to probably go with the Saints. I mean, the Browns have a good, not great defense. They've given up a lot of points this year. So yeah, I'd probably go with the Saints, but I don't think any of the defenses that you listed are within the same breath as the 49ers. I mean, there was a stat that went out, I think CBS Sports put it up, where the 49ers are either tied for first or first in every defensive category. So the 49ers are having a historic defensive season. I'd like to see them continue it.
I'm gonna say the Niners are in first in every category. The one that they were tied in was points per game, and that includes Jimmy stepping out of the back of the end zone. So
okay.
if you take that away, the Niners are number 1. Just that one play right there. That had nothing to do with our defense. Absolutely nothing to do with our defense. Yeah. They're number 1. And that doesn't include the defense giving this team 6 points, 2 pick sixes. All right. So that doesn't include that either. This defense is the number 1 scoring defense in the entire NFL. And there's not a close second. I'm saying that knowing that statistically we're tied. You got to do the plus 12. And you got to do the -2. So
Mhm.
that's a difference of 14 points. I'm not counting extra points at all. That's 14 points that this defense has accounted for that the Bills defense has not accounted for. We're that good. We are that good. So this defense is playing lights out.
Yeah, they're fantastic. They're fantastic. So I want to ask about this because somebody brought up where'd it go? They brought up Kyle Pitts. Do we use the B word with Kyle Pitts yet? I mean,
No.
I can't remember a guy who is touted as being can't miss with quarterbacks who don't like to throw the ball deep and a dude who just can't seem to get the ball thrown to him that much.
So I issued a challenge to the people on the video. We can either I'm going to do a rewatch tomorrow or Saturday morning. It's either going to be the 49ers Panthers game in full. I haven't seen it in full. I did see the first half. The next night I started the second half, but I haven't watched it all the way through. Or we can watch the last Falcons game. But from my understanding, they're just not targeting him. It's hard for me to call him a bust. I'm looking at the stats right now, and if you look at the receptions, right, he's listed here as. Hold on, let me go to just receptions. I'm going to put it in order, in order of receptions. He's third on their team in receptions with only 10, right? You have another wide receiver in Drake over him, but if you look at targets now, this one doesn't give me targets.
Actually, by the way, I could probably just throw this out. He had 1,000 yards receiving last year. I didn't realize he had so many yards.
Yeah,
he only had one touchdown. He's not scoring touchdowns. That's a problem,
right? But he's catching less than 50% of his targets. So there is a little bit of a sophomore slump, right?
That's an issue, yeah, right?
Kind of, but no at the same time.
I mean, I understand you catch 60 to 70%, but only catching half, like that's not good.
It's less than half. He's probably at like 45.
I know it's a little of both, 45%. Right?
But what happens is you have 1,000 yards receiving, they're going to queue on you now. And so Julio Jones is in there. You got Drake London, I got it right this time, as your leading receiver on the team, and then he's in second place as far as targets go. So he's got 22 targets, 10 receptions. But I think what we have to factor in is that teams are now queuing in on him. They are making it a point to not let him be the reason they win. They're taking away the top wide receiver. And I think if I'm a defense, I'm going to take away the second-year guy as opposed to the first-year guy. If I have to pick one, what would Belichick do? Belichick is going to say, your guy in the short passing game, the tall guy, 6'4", 6'5", is not going to be the guy to beat us. We're going to take him away and make you beat us downfield a little bit more. Even if it's 3 or 4 yards more deeper, that's less likely that you're going to complete that pass. So that's what I would do. And
do you think he's going to be more of a second-half guy then? With Drake London getting the majority of targets early, right? The majority of catches or whatever. Defenses like to shift the more they see something. Do you think that shifts back to Pitts in the second half of the year then?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
Because as Drake London continues with his consistency, and they're going to say, all right, let's take him away. And that'll open up Pitts later on, which is why I was happy to see Kyle forcing the ball to his big playmakers, because that's going to open things up for guys like Ray McLeod, Danny Gray. I want to see those two guys get the ball in space because the speed that they have is second to nobody else on the team. So I want to see that happening.
Joey Arredano put this in the chat. Pitts leads the league in targets percentage at 32. That means that Mariota is just not throwing the ball in a catchable spot. Okay, so as we talked about, there are different guys, right? You want to key in on Drake London. You want to key in on Kyle Pitts, just keep him out of there. Cordell Patterson is out. He was the Falcons' leading rusher before he missed last week and eventually went on IR with the knee injury. They have Tyler Algier and Caleb Huntley behind him. Marcus Mariota is always a rushing threat. With the injuries to the defensive line and a mobile quarterback on the other side, do we think that maybe the 49ers need to go after the running backs and try to contain Mariota?
I did say that on the last show, right? So Marcus Mariota, I know people don't want to hear this, but considering that Cordell Patterson is on IR, he's not playing in this game. He's their second leading rusher, and it's very close. It's very close. They have Tyler. I'm saying Algier. I don't know how exactly to pronounce the name, but he's got 184 yards. Mariota's got 156. and the next closest person to him is only at 93 yards. So Mariota is their second option to run the ball. That's broken down plays. I watched this. I was watching just a couple of different plays from different games with them. If his first or second read isn't there, he's looking to move to the right, and then he takes off a little bit. He'll move to the left, and he does it about evenly. I was actually really impressed with this by Marcus Mariota. A lot of quarterbacks, they favor one side or the other. They start looking to the left, then they look to the right, and then they break usually to the way that they're looking. He is splitting it up pretty evenly, and that's making it hard for defenses to cue on who should be playing contain. You try to pick one side or the other and force them one way, the opposite way. Mariota's doing a really good job of spreading it out. So I do think that he's going to be the guy that we have to look for in the run game more than anybody else. And I said this on the other show. We've played Russell Wilson, who was looked at as a mobile quarterback, right? Geno, no. Justin Fields, yes, but it was a slot bowl. It was a monsoon. Those were the two guys that you got to look at the most, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. The Niners did an okay job. This is going to be a good weather game because they're in a dome, and this is going to be Marcus Mariota, who's relatively young NFL-wise. He's going to be able to move. This is going to be the most mobile quarterback we have played so far this season, and this is going to be the biggest test for us to see if we can contain this guy more than anybody else. So I do think that this is something that we got to cue in on.
Perfect. That's a good response. Real quick, I want to tune into the chat. Give me what you guys think. I'm going to bring you guys up here. Let me know what you guys think in terms of who's going to be the biggest thorn in the 49ers side coming up. You know, we've talked about offense. Maybe it's somebody on defense, you know. Maybe it's somebody, you know, a Grady Jarrett or somebody like that. Maybe it's a Rashaan Evans, you know, AJ Terrell, another player. So who do you guys think is going to give the 49ers fits on either side of the ball? And who do you think that the team should key in on? I know we got a lot of real quick. We got another Rams fan in the chat. He seems to come in every week. Welcome back. You're a brave soul after the thrashing we gave you earlier this season. But all right, Ian Sharp, Mariota. I think Mariota's dangerous just from the running aspect of it. I do think that that's something that, again, the 49ers, and particularly because our edge rushers are a little bit injured this week, I think that that's something that the 49ers really have to worry about. If they're not able to contain Mariota, that's going to have the defense break down. That's going to allow things to get open, and we've seen it time and time again. That's what hurt us in that last drive against Russell Wilson. He was able to escape. He was able to make some things happen, and that was really kind of a pain in the ass. Grady Jarrett, going to be a thorn. He has great games. He does. I definitely do. I definitely do believe that. So that'll be interesting to see as well. The 49ers are going to have to block him like they do. It's going to be interesting overall for that.
It's interesting you guys are talking about Grady Jarrett because he is their sack leader, but he only has 4 or 5. Let me see. Hold on. Let me pull it back up again. But I was pretty impressed knowing that Nick Bosa has more than this guy has on the season. Like if you, it was when you added up all of them. He's got 3.5. Their next leading guy is 1.5. So that's only 5. And then you have 3 more. So that's 8. Like Nick Bosa, had he finished that game, probably finishes with 8 sacks on the season. One guy on our defensive line is just as impressive as their entire pass rush. I thought that was pretty incredible. But yeah, Grady, he's going to be a problem. He's going to get some pressure. He gets constant pressure. So there's no bad answers there. You guys are doing great.
This is an interesting question from Chris Hansen. He's asking, how much time was left when E-Man got injured? That is something that Kyle's been criticized for, leaving defensive players in blowout games, maybe in situations where they don't necessarily need the top flight guys out there. What's your take on that? Did Kyle leave Emmanuel in? And do you think that the 49ers should play and coach with injuries in mind?
This is so funny. This took me back to 2010, I believe. It was Singletary's year as the head coach. We were playing against Washington, and the Niners were blowing them out. And they decided to throw a bomb. We were on offense. They throw a bomb to Josh Morgan down the right sideline, and he breaks his leg, a season-ending injury. And when I say blown, I don't remember the exact score, but it felt like it was like 41-10 with less than 3 minutes left in the game. Like he was just trying to pile it on. And I get it, like you want to build the confidence of your players and things like that. But at a certain point, like guys, they can't catch us. They can't. I'm never going to blame a coach for doing that because injuries are a part of the game. It can happen in the first quarter. It can happen in the last quarter. You don't control when injuries are going to happen. Because here's the flip side, right? The Niners bench players early in games, that Detroit game. Everyone faulted them for it when they actually did it. Players, Nick Bosa on the sideline, unwrapping his hands, took his helmet off, gave it to the training staff and everything. And then Detroit started coming back on the Niners, and they say, oh, my God, we almost lost that game. We almost lost that game. That was so irresponsible. You guys can't have it both ways. You can't. Pick a side. If we have a 3-score lead and it's the fourth quarter, you want us to pull players, then don't argue with what happens. If teams start coming back and we still get the win, but you almost blew it. No, we didn't almost blow it. The starting defense only allowed 17 points that game, period. I don't care what the final score said. And then the flip side to this is you criticize them for it then, so we do the opposite now, and then we lose the players like, oh, man, you should have pulled players. That's revisionist history. That's not right. You cannot operate that way. You got to pick a side and you got to stay on it. I'm not going to ever blame them for doing what they did. I'm sorry. I'm not. Kyle Shanahan is the same guy who lost the Super Bowl with a 28-3 lead. I'm never gonna criticize him for doing it. If he decides, Kyle, if he decides that he wants to keep his players in there for the whole game, I'm never gonna criticize him for it. I'm not.
There you go. Real quick before I respond, lock it up in the chat. I don't want to see that shit in there. I will ban you. We don't need to be talking like this to each other. That being said, no, I get it. It's revisionist history. It's something that, I mean, that play could have happened in the second quarter. It could have happened whenever. It wasn't anything crazy, right? E-Man went up, made a play on a ball, and when he came down, his knee planted and it buckled. That's just what it is, you know? There are instances where, like you said, if it's super obviously out of control or whatever, like let's not, keep superstar players in there unless you can pull some guys out. 30-point lead with like 8 minutes left. Maybe you do that, right? But it's the NFL, and I'm talking about you. I don't want to see what you're saying in there. Tommy Huxley, I'm talking about you. Anyway.
Okay. I
was see it, right?
For what you were talking. Yeah, I
know. I'm not putting it up on the chat. That's completely out of pocket. We don't need that shit.
About McVay?
Yep.
Yeah, no, that's like
that's too much, man.
Yeah, I get it. I understand
that's too
what
much.
You're saying.
I don't like that.
That one message has 1, 2, 3 things wrong with it. Yep. And the funny thing is, there's only 7 words in the message.
Right.
That's a
too
lot.
much, man.
That's a lot.
That's too much.
So I understand.
Just I know you think you're clever with the cute nicknames, but that's junior high shit. Like, lock it up. So anyway, where was I? It's 2-score game. It's 2-score game with 4 minutes left, right? If somebody breaks away and they score a touchdown, it's a 1-score game. I think that it was Aspra that pointed that out. There was 4 minutes left, and if Panthers score, they need just 1 score. Injuries happen. It's football. That's really what it is. Hung Fat also says Kyle gets criticized for taking his foot off the gas. But then when he doesn't take his foot off the gas and somebody gets hurt, they're like, oh, you should have taken your foot off the gas. There's really no winning for trying. So it's just a bad situation.
I was wrong. It was 2011, not 2010. That Josh Morgan broke his leg. So, and in that game, I know it's not important right now, right? But I want to find the score. 49ers. It was 49ers, Redskins, 2011. And the final score of that game.
See, now this one's like better. This is, I'll show this message. This one's way better. There we go. I like that better.
It wasn't 2011. Never mind. I take that back.
Still, the point still stands, right?
Yeah.
You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And
Mhm.
unless it's like a completely crazy situation, you don't want to, take your foot off the gas because you're going to get criticized. I think somebody, Chris Hansen said, if it was a Super Bowl, keep your foot on the gas. Remember, he got criticized for calling those passing plays, and Matt Ryan took a sack to get them out of field goal. So even then, foot on the gas, you're getting criticized. Kyle catches a lot of flack for his play calling. I think his situational awareness is a little helter-skelter, a little bit off-kilter and inconsistent, but I think that he tries, man.
Yeah, he does, and he doesn't get enough credit for it. Like, and the problem is that there's no right or wrong answer to it. It's just something that happens. You know what I'm saying? It's just something that happens, and people don't want to like acknowledge it. You just have to. There's no right or wrong. There's no, injuries are going to happen, and it's the same thing that I felt like I was defending Kyle, even though I was mad at it. I felt like I was defending Kyle with the whole Trey Lance up the middle thing, right? And I'm like, I get it. You don't want to see it, but I can't just be like, oh, you were wrong. You should have never done that.
Yeah, I think that in that instance, I think that there's more creative ways to use Trey Lance's athletic ability than just running quarterback power. But at the same time, he's not exactly wrong when they say, oh, Josh Allen does it too. But I think it's been proven that the percentage that Kyle was running Trey was a little bit high, that it was like at a level that you don't really see in terms of other quarterbacks. Josh Allen's passes to run ratio was something like 7 or 8 to 1, whereas Trey Lance's was like 2 or 3 to 1. And so you just want to see that. Just again, use the situation to your advantage, but also be smart about how you do it. And I think that's something where he can improve. So let's start getting into our offensive and defensive MVPs. I got to wake up early for a drive to Vegas tomorrow. I'm going to be watching our 49ers and putting some money on them in the pool at the Circa Resort. Not a sponsor of the show, but offensive MVP, Mike, who you got?
It's the damn Buccaneers. That's why I can never get it right. It was the Bucks, not the offensive MVP for me is going to be, I'm going to go with, I've been saying it. I think I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to go with Brandon Ayuk. We saw what Kyle did last week. Again, forcing the ball to his 3 big guys. I think if you are an opposing team, you try to take away George Kittle because of the short passes and Jimmy Garoppolo. And you also try, with that comes, Deebo Samuel. I think we get some intermediate and even a deep shot to Brandon Ayuk. He might not get in the end zone, but I can see Ayuk finishing the game with 5 receptions for 89 yards or something like that. Breaking a couple tackles, just being very impressive, keeping drives going, and leading to scores. So 5 for 89 for my guy, Brandon Ayuk. The run game is going to be the run game. I'm very interested to see how they use Ty Davis-Price. He was going to be my guy when it comes to scoring. I think if we get down the red zone or goal line, I think he's going to be the running back that's out there ahead of Tevin Coleman. Yes, I said that. Ahead of Tevin Coleman, right? But I do think I'm going to give it to Brandon Ayuk. I'm going to stick with it.
All right. I know that we pissed a lot of people off with the slander, and I'm saying he's on the decline, but this defense is setting up real nicely for George Kittle to have a game. I'm going to pick George Kittle. I think he has 5 catches for 90 yards and gets a touchdown. So we'll go with that for offensive. And guys, this is the time of the week where we get to pick our defensive MVPs too. Mike, who you got?
Defensive MVP. All right. I am going to go with, hear me out, I don't have a name, whoever is opposite of Charvarius Ward. I think that player is going to have the most pressure on them, whether it's Jason Verrett, Ambry Thomas, whoever. I don't care. That person is going to have the most pressure on them because teams are going to try to cue in on him for the next 2 weeks in a row. It's never going to get any worse than what it is right now. This is going to be the game where they say, you're the weak link, we're coming for you. This Niners team has been so locked down, so shut down, that 2 receptions for 30 yards is looked at as a bad day for the 49ers secondary, right? The run game is the run game. We're going to do what we do there. The linebackers are good. No team is going to average more than, 3.9 yards a carry against the Niners. What's going to happen is They're going to test out someone on the outside. It's going to be the person that's the new guy there. That's where the pressure is going to come. And when they hold up, not if, when they hold up, that's going to be the guy that I'm going to praise when the game is over.
All right. I'm going to change it up this week. I always go Nick Bosa 3 sacks and a forced fumble, but he did not practice again today. And I know that if he can go, he's going to go. But I don't think that he's going to be able to go. I don't think that Nick Bosa is actually going to play this week. So my defensive MVP is going to be the rookie, Drake Jackson. I think that he's going to fill that void. He's going to have 2 sacks on Mariota, and he's going to put the pressure on him all day long. I think he's going to be a force in the running game. I think that he's going to be able to. I mean, we saw it earlier, right? I think it was a preseason game. I can't remember who it was against, but where the quarterback rolled out and Drake Jackson like turned on a dime to catch back up to him. That dude has some agility. He's a young athlete. I think he's going to be able to get it done. I think that Drake Jackson makes himself known out in that passing game this week.
Do you think he has any batted passes this game?
He might.
I think he has 2. I think he has 2 batted passes in this game. One thing Mariota likes to do, and it's not just Mariota. The smart teams in the NFL do this, right? If you know you got a rusher coming in, you want to throw over them because that's usually where your escape is. But what they don't account for is how long Drake Jackson's arms are, his ability to jump. I think they sleep on that, and this kid's going to get up. And he's going to prove people wrong.
He's good at getting himself in windows too, in passing lanes. He's been close a few times. I've seen it, so
right,
it'll be good.
Right. So I think he gets it there. Yep.
Tommy Huxley on this is absolutely correct. Jim Everett was a scrub. His claim to fame is being called Chris by Jim Rome on his show and then going after him. So,
yeah.
All right,
we got the 49ers are still not proven. See, I have problems with comments
two NFC championship games in 3 years and a Super Bowl appearance is proven.
And
this is a team that's largely intact with its core. There are new pieces, but the core is largely intact from those teams.
Even if he's talking about just this year, what else do you want them to do? Honestly,
their number one defense.
They're
the number one defense.
They have the number one defense. I know you want to see the win against the Bears because of how bad the Bears are, but it was a mud bowl. You had a new offensive line playing together for the first time. You had a new secondary playing together for the first time. You were in a monsoon, new quarterback under center, right? I said that on this show in particular. If there's a game that we can go back and use revisionist history and say, you know what? I kind of understand why we lost that close game. We were a better team, but we didn't do whatever. That would be the game. And then factor in the 99 yards worth of penalties on top of everything that I named. Add in the 99 yards of penalties in week 1. You want them to win that game? That was the game that you're supposed to be understanding about. Okay, so now you shake off the rust, you come back, and you play a team. Who was week 2? Oh, that was the game I was at. That was the home opener. That was Seattle. And we won that game. Even though we lost Trey Lance, we dominated that game.
By the way, they only scored on the blocked field goal.
Yes.
That was a shutout for the defense.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So you got to give them props for that. All right, you want the win against Denver, right? And I get that, and so do I. Denver's a shell of themselves. Russell Wilson is a shell of himself. Vic Fangio not being there is exposing that defense. I completely get it. But it was Jimmy's first game. And Jimmy didn't have a whole offseason of practice. I'm not talking about the rapport. I'm not going to use that excuse. I've heard people say, oh, he doesn't know how to throw to these. No, bullshit. Jimmy's played with those guys long enough.
No,
he didn't have,
He does. He knows how to throw those guys. It's just, it's reps. It's reps. It's
exactly.
Feeling out the shoulder as it is in a game situation.
Right. The shoulder's tightening up the longer you play. He's got to get back in that groove. The Niners weren't concerned with that. He was throwing the ball boys. Ball boys. Not a single receiver was over there catching passes from him. Not rookies, not undrafted free agents, nobody. It was Jimmy and ball boys. That's not real. Those guys aren't even running routes. They're standing at a point on the field and say, hey, yo, that's backyard catch. What I do with my son. You think my son is good enough to go out there and play on an NFL field? Absolutely not. You wouldn't expect it from him. You wouldn't expect it from me as a quarterback. You shouldn't expect it from Jimmy. Jimmy had a long off season with surgery, no workout, none of that stuff. He was learning his leg. He was learning his shoulder, timing, rhythm, all that shit was off. You make that excuse for Jimmy. First start for Jimmy, first start for Trey. You wipe those out, and the Niners are undefeated.
Yep.
I don't know what else you want them to prove. You can only play the team on your schedule. The year the Panthers went 15-1, they had the weakest schedule I had ever seen in my entire life. And you know what I told my cousin, who I was at the Panthers game with this past week? You can only play the team in front of you. Yes, I think you guys had the weakest schedule I've ever seen in my life, but you took care of business with the weakest schedule. You guys won 15 games. You deserve to be in the postseason. You deserve to be the number one seed in the NFC. You took care of business. You can only beat who's in front of you. That's all you can do. That's all you can do.
Absolutely. That being said, before we get to our final score predictions, so go ahead and put those in the chat, everybody. I'm going to do an ad read, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to do an ad read. So your favorite athletes always strive to put themselves in a winning position, and it's about time you did too with MyBookie. MyBookie has the biggest online selection of odds and contests to fill all your sports betting needs anytime, anywhere. Bet on the NFL, MLB. The playoffs are happening right now. Padres just got a huge win over the Dodgers. Maybe you want to get some of that action. Maybe you don't. Or you can play for a share of big cash prizes in the weekly blackjack tournaments that they have. If you've been waiting for the right time to get in on the action, that time is now. Make your winning move today. Sign up at MyBookie using promo code HIVE and claim your deposit match of any amount up to $1,000. Again, that's promo code HIVE to claim your bonus. Experience sports in a whole new light and make this season a winning one. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. That being said, Mike, what do we got on these final scores?
All right, guys. I don't know what the spread is. I don't know if you have that pulled up over there or not, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Niners do not cover. I think Niners are going to be heavy favorites on the road, which should be rare by itself. I wouldn't be surprised if they were 5.5 point favorites in this game. I don't think it's going to be that big of a win for the 49ers. I think we win a close one. I think Mariota does a couple of things where he keeps them in the game. I think Jimmy has a turnover or two that comes back to bite us in the butt. But I think the Niners get the win 27-24, 49ers.
Okay. 49ers are favored by 5.
There you go. 5 felt about right. And I swear to God, I never looked it up. Swear to God.
I'm kind of with you on that. I think 5 on the road for the second week in a row where you didn't go home is a little bit, rich, particularly given the injury situation and the fact that, Atlanta does do a few things well that kind of can give the 49ers a little bit of trouble. I'm still looking for that. Jimmy hasn't gone 3 games without throwing a pick in his career. I think it stays a little close. I'm going to go with the 49ers taking the victory, but I think the score is going to be 20-17.
Yeah. Another a close one, no matter how you look at it. So I like that. I see the score predictions. Now here on 49ers Hive, guys, there is a giveaway. If you get the score prediction on the head, they are going to give away some merch. So make sure you guys type them in here in the live chat. Make sure you guys type them in the comments after the show is over. As soon as the show is over, guys, it takes about 10 seconds for it to become available for replay. Type it in again, even if you did it here in live. Just go back, type in your score prediction. You don't have to say anything else. We're not asking for a thumbs up or anything. Type your score prediction, and that makes you eligible for the free giveaway. 1 entry per person. 1 entry per person. I've seen people go in there and put 2 or 3 of them in there hoping that you get it. No. We're watching. First entry is the only entry. So make sure you guys go in there and do that. It's free. All you got to do is go type. It's 5 digits. First 2 for the score, a dash, and the second 2 for the score. It's 5 keystrokes. You guys can win some free giveaways. That's the best giveaway I've ever heard of in my entire life. Make sure you guys get on over there and do that.
And we've only had one person get it, but we're waiting for somebody else. It's going to happen. I mean, there's only so many scores you can go through. We're not doing scoregami here, guys. How you say that? Yaguayo 56 with a $2 super chat.
Well, I say
28-17. Great show. Stay blessed, young man. Thank you so much. We love having you here. Thank you. Appreciate it. Ace Bro, 27-17. In by 10. Hey, I like it. Also, by the way, Tommy Huxley, I almost banned you for that Dodgers comment.
Look at Matt taking baseball comments personal on a football.
I take them very personally.
Come on,
I
man.
cannot listen. I would rather wear Seattle Seahawks gear in the middle of a 49ers crowd and say that Joe Montana is the worst person ever than to watch the Dodgers do anything good. I hate the
Ooh,
Dodgers with every fiber of my being.
I see.
The Dodgers can jump ass first into a pencil factory and I would laugh at them all the way home.
Oh my
I hate the
God.
Dodgers.
That is some intense shit right there, man.
Baseball's
Oh
my
my
first love.
God.
I love football, and like football is so much more digestible. It's so much more like, it's very exciting and stuff, but there's just like something that like growing up, baseball to me was like the first thing that I saw, the first thing that I fell in love with as a sport. And so it holds a special place to me. So, and that means that the Dodgers hold a special place in hell with me as well. So, yeah, that being said, I just want to get that out of the way. Fuck the Dodgers. Okay, that was it.
This week's Matt Rant was brought to you by Matt, as usual, and it had nothing to do with the 49ers for the first time in about 17 consecutive weeks. So, guys, enjoy that shit. Hit the like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications, so that way people, when we are going live over here on 49ers Hive. And make sure, if you want to do any of your game day betting, anything, any sport, doesn't just have to be football, head on over to mybookie.com, use promo code Hive. That is it, man. This is great.
Promo code Hive.
Good job.
Good job. Tell the people where they can find you, Matt. Mike, we're getting out of here. I almost called you myself.
It's all good. My name is right here down below, Mike Andrews 83. That's the Twitter handle. If you guys want to follow a business account, it is nothing but 9ERS, nothing but Niners. Go on YouTube, type in NB9ERS, whatever. NBN will pop up. I promise you guys that. Thank you guys for the support. Matt, Zach, I know you're not here, but thank you guys for the opportunity to come on here and smoke a little bit of hookah, man. I can't smoke on my own show because I'm talking too much. So I get a chance
there
to
you go.
Back, relax, pour up a nice little drink and kick it with the guys. I enjoy
as
it
a medical professional, it's concerning to me that you smoke so much hookah, but as a friend, I'm happy to oblige.
Wait, now
I want to thank you for coming in too. So, it's always great.
What's wrong with hookah? It's more molasses and leaves than it is tobacco. No nicotine. I mean, what's the problem with it?
I mean, molasses is already, listen, I don't think people should be ingesting anything
pour that shit on pancakes. It's bad for you.
If you light it on fire and inhale it, yeah, man.
Oh, damn. I didn't know that. I didn't know it was that bad for you. I didn't know.
I don't know. I don't have the studies offhand. We're getting off track here, but I'm happy to oblige you as a friend. I don't want to be a killjoy. So
I appreciate it, man. Thank you, though.
Yeah, I mean, your body, your life, your choice, which means I want to thank you for choosing to be with us tonight, Mike. We love having you here on the show. I'm gonna take us out of here, man. I want to thank everybody here for joining us. We love having you as always. It should be a fun one in Atlanta on Sunday. Look forward to hopefully another 49ers victory. And I'm going to try to work it out to be back on the show with Zach on Sunday. But considering I'm going to be in Vegas, there's no promise of that. So we'll figure something out for you guys, though. And we should be bringing you the post-game show. So thank you, as always, for joining us. And until next time, go Niners.